3 truths about the Leviathan axe. 2 will fracture what you know. The frost mist isn't just dwarven craft, not just a weapon's breath. 2 will Jotunheim's fracture what snow you know laid in halls. The frost cutting through the dark mist isn't just dwarven craft. Flash to Faye, her hands steady, her eyes heavy with what she bound within the blade. Eternal, her hands steady. The dwarven forges where the axe was bound still echo with a god's dying breath, frost not forged, but asterisk trapped asterisk, a shackle of ice and will. Faye's sacrifice wasn't just power, it was her voice, her name, woven into the mist to keep the void from spilling. When Kratos calls the axe, the air doesn't chill it, asterisk screams asterisk, a sound felt in the marrow. Each strike peels back layers of containment. Is the frost a weapon or a warning? The primordial wars weren't won by steel, but by silence. And now that silence writhes in every snowflake the blade exhales. Brock and Sindri shaped the Leviathan axe not in the age of gods, but in its dying breath of time when primordial forces bled into the world. The dwarves knew their craft was more than metal. Their hammers struck sparks that chilled the air, forging a blade that exhaled frost mist. This was no enchantment, it was a shroud, woven from the last gasp of a being whose name eroded time. Faye, heir to forgotten crowns, was given the axe as a shield. Yet its mist curled like a tongue of the thing trapped within. The dwarves left no tales. Only the axe remains, its frost a silent dirge. What if every snowflake it births is a whisper from the void, bound not to protect, but to remember? The primordial wars ended not with victory, but with burial, and the Leviathan axe, it is the tomb where the earth still trembles. The axe's mist is no mere craft, it is a shroud woven from a god's dying breath. When Kratos calls it forth, the frost does not freeze it, asterisk remembers asterisk. Each ripple of mist is a chain, binding a force too vast for the world to hold. The dwarves did not forge this power. They borrowed it, leeching the remnants of a being whose name eroded from the stars. Its essence coiled in the axe's core hungers, it does not obey, it asterisk awaits asterisk. Kratos' blood is the lock, his wrath the key. The bond with Faye fractured, yet unbroke needs the seal. Every strike of the axe rips a thread in the veil between realms. The mist thickens not from magic, but from the gods' struggle. A whisper in the ice, asterisk let me out asterisk, the dwarves knew. They needed a wielder with rage sharp enough to contain what they could not. They did not give Kratos a weapon. They gave him a wound, a living prison. The axe's return to shadow is no illusion, it is a ritual. Each time it vanishes, the god's soul is dragged back into its cage, but cages rust. And the longer the axe is wielded, the closer the world draws to Fimbulwinter's breath of frost, not of snow, but of asterisk release asterisk. What does the mist hunger for? Not war, not vengeance. It hungers for the sky to crack. The first to touch its haft was Faye. She saw only a blade of dwarven fire, a gift from her kin. She did not hear the god's breath trapped in its steel, how it shuddered at her touch. When she passed the axe to Kratos, her final act was a chain. He swung it as a hammer of flesh, never knowing the frost mist wept at his rage. The god within gnashed its teeth, held fast by the weight of her death. Kratos carved his path through Niflheim's ash, the axe's mist painting his shadow on the snow. He thought it a curse. He was wrong, it was a dam. The god's voice seeped through the ice, whispering of realms unmade, of a sky that had once cracked under its fury. But Kratos had no ears for parables. He wielded the axe as a man wielded grief until the day he buried Faye's ashes, and the mist thickened like a held breath. Now Atreus stands where the storm bends, his hands are steady, but the axe's hunger is a language he deciphers. The frost mist no longer hides it, asterisk watches asterisk. What does it cost to unshackle a god? To learn that Faye's blessing was a bargain struck in dust, the axe's edge has always been a threshold. Kratos crossed it as a warrior, Atreus must cross it as a man. The god's breath in the steel is patient. It waits for a soul to match its own, the sky will crack again. But will it be for Freedomer to swallow the one who unlocks it? But this artifact is more than a weapon, it is a prison, a pact, and a curse. The frost mist breathes a god's final sigh, bound to the blade. Each strike stirs Fimbulwinter's slumber. Will the axe break the chainsaw, become its instrument? The frost mist does not merely cling to the blade, it asterisk is asterisk the blade's shadow, a god's exhalation trapped between forged fire and fated strike. What dwarven hands shaped, cosmic sorrow tempered, each breath of ice whispers a debt unpaid, a sacrifice unspoken. The axe's edge does not cut flesh, it carves the price of legacy, a father's weapon, a son's burden. The duality is written in every shiver of its haft, the same power that fells giants can splinter a soul. Kratos learned this in Sparta, Atreus learned it in the abyss. To wield such a gift is to inherit its curse. The mist does not freeze the air, it freezes time, holding a forgotten god's last moments in suspended agony, a prison with no walls. What is a god but a debt amplified? The axe's creator knew this. They did not forge a weapon, thief forged a vow, binding their essence to the steel to ensure it would never be misused. Or perhaps they ensured it would always be. The line between salvation and ruin is thinner than the axe's edge. The Nordic cosmos bends here. A god's soul, neither fully dead nor alive, fuels every swing. Balance is not maintained, it is asterisk negotiated asterisk, strike by strike, as the axe's master walks the same path, father, son, executioner. The mist rises not from magic but from memory, a requiem in frost. What legacy is carved when the tool becomes the tomb? The axe's secret is not in its power but in its patience. It waits, it remembers. And in every swing it asks, who will finally set this god free? The axe's breath hangs in the air, a spectral shroud that clings to Kratos' hand like a shadow given form. Jotunheim's glaciers groan beneath his steps. Each swing once cleaved frost giants in half, yet the first strike, that first spill of icy blood, did not kill a monster. It sealed a wound in the world. The mist is no forge's trick, it is a voice stifled. A god's last gasp, frozen mid-scream. Atreus feels it most when the wind shifts, the frost curls toward him, as if recognizing kin. The same ash that falls from Faye's pyre, the same breath that escapes a dying star. Kratos does not wield the axe. It wields him, its edge hums with a hunger not his own. When he pauses, the mist pools in the snow, a dark shape within the white, a face, a name, not primordial, not forgotten. Waiting, the boy walks on, scattering what he cannot understand. The father follows, carrying what he cannot bury. The axe's pact is not between them, it is between the blade and the ghost that haunts it, and the snow keeps falling. And the mist keeps breathing. The mist that clings to the blade is no mere craft. It is a breath held at the edge of time, a god's last gasp, sealed by hands that knew both hammer and sorrow. The father who forged this burden did not merely shape steel. He bound a legacy to the frost, a pact between mortal and divine that would outlast both. His son, heir to the axe, did not inherit a weapon. He inherited the weight of a nameless god's dying will, a power that glows not from fire, but from what was sacrificed to contain it. What is a weapon but a wound made permanent? The Leviathan axe does not kill with edge or swing. It carves a price into the world, a debt paid in frozen breath and unspoken vows. The Nordic stars wheel above, their light dimmed by the same mist that coils around the Bladia cosmos, altered by a death never fully told. Generations turn, the axe endures. And in its heart, the ghost of a god neither sleeps nor wakes, its final act not destruction, but stillness. Power is a mirror, it shows not what you take, but what you become. The frost does not fade, the mist does not. And the blade, ever the blade, waits for the next hand to bear the cold. Become, the frost does not fade, the mist does not. And the blade, ever the blade, waits for the next hand to bear the cold. What if this breath, this ice, is a god's last gasp, trapped, unspoken, tears chains in Valhalla, whisper of debts unpaid? The axe's mist may hold a debt, a silence. What did the dwarves barter to birth this blade? The next secret lies not in Asgard,